Are you affected by addiction and struggling to find hope? You don't have to feel this way anymore. Welcome to the Peace We Crave. Find your freedom in addiction recovery with me, your host, Tanya D. There is hope. As a spiritual life recovery coach, I use a unique holistic approach of meditation, Reiki energy and sound healing, and spiritual life transformation to help you find peace and serenity. If you are sick and tired of feeling sick and tired and have had enough, I get it. I've been there, and I can provide a listening and sympathetic ear. Creating calm in your recovery is possible. If you're ready for help and hope towards your freedom in recovery, join into the Peace We Crave show with me as I help you find your freedom in addiction recovery. It all starts now.
Hey, everybody, welcome. Look, I am so excited about this show. Okay, so I have had a major dose of this. I am on the East Coast and I have been working with an amazing woman, but I want to just say, I want to just tell you the name of her show, The Peace We Crave. Tanya D. Find your freedom in addiction recovery. The Peace We Crave. And I want to tell you, I have been on the East Coast helping a friend of mine, very, very close friend of mine. And I am reminded of how important this show is, the show that she's created. I am so deeply reminded of it today. Motivation for sobriety. We're going to kick it up and we're going to go now. Now, for a minute, I want to tell you who this woman is. So I get to meet incredible people, but when you understand that in the journey of addiction and recovery, that you do struggle to find hope, you don't have, you think you're alone. You don't know that things are going on out there that other people are struggling with, but she does. And so what she has created, this amazing coach, spiritual life recovery coach, unique holistic approach to helping us understand the peace we crave and then experiencing it. This show and all of the shows, you're going to be uplifted, you're going to be challenged, you're going to be asked, am I motivated enough? Certified meditation instructor, she is that and much more. It it is in the journey that we take, that we seek the solutions that we know work. When it comes to addiction, recovery, sobriety, what keeps you sober each day? Let's find out. Tanya, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh my God. You know, it's hard to explain this, but let's just start from the beginning. The motivation. You know, since I've been speaking with you, this idea of the motivation that gets you sober. It's different for everyone. What was that like for you?
So for me, my addiction was literally killing me. I was literally almost dead. I was in a hospital, almost dead. And the worst part is that I lost myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I didn't want to.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there's so many people in my life that were upset with me. It was just, and I was like dead inside. Like there was nothing in there.
Yeah.
It was just like a shell of a person.
Yeah. That feeling is so difficult to explain to another person that hasn't been there. But if you all are listening to this show, you know what we're talking about because you know that feeling, right? And it has so many layers, you know, but we get to such depths, right? We get to this place that it doesn't even seem we can rise up. But then you and I are not alone in talking about this. Let's talk about where things were when you got where things were when you had this epiphany. What was it like out there? You know, I mean, it wasn't hard to find people to go get high with or go get drunk. I mean, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody, if you don't drink, people think you're weird.
Yeah.
If you aren't experimenting with all this stuff, people think something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy out there.
When you push people away, what does that feel like inside?
it doesn't feel good ultimately. In the moment of you doing it, you don't even realize you're doing it because you're chasing that high or that whatever it is so much that you don't even realize how much you're hurting yourself until you actually have to
Yeah.
take a step back and can actually kind of even notice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, relationships are elusive. I'm not
Yep.
able to have relationships of any kind of meaningful stature at all. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to repair somewhat relationship of my past. I mean, I'm so grateful for that every minute of every day. I don't even understand how. I don't even understand where that level of forgiveness came from, right? But here we are. I'll tell you where it came from. If I were to take my best friend's language, she would say to me, "You know where it comes from? Word talk is cheap." This is you could see with the accent. Talk is cheap. How are you going to change, Pat? Isn't that part of the motivation? I mean, having motivation to really enter the world of sobriety is one thing. But once you enter that world of sobriety, let's just stay in that for a minute. Everybody thinks it's just say no. That is not the journey. It's an up and down and an in and out and a sideways, and it's a start and it's a stop. Tell me what that was like for you.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're bringing this up because people, I feel like, don't talk enough about that transition period because I am living a certain way, right? I have all these things that I do, these people I'm with, all this stuff, this identity. And now the identity isn't working anymore. So I have to make a choice. And I chose to put down the substance, right? So it's not just, like you said, it's not just putting down the substance or putting down whatever it is. It's like I have to change my entire life, my entire identity. And there's a huge transition process that happens. There's a huge just a shift in everything that I do. And it's like I become at the other end, right? I become a different person, a better person. But when I'm going through that initial separation, it's just not talked enough about
No.
how difficult it is and how hard it is for people to actually really truly change their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And the motivation to get sober, you're still in you're still trying to get motivated. You're still trying to get motivated to enter the world of sobriety. And it's not linear. It's ugly. It's messy, but it is a pathway to freedom, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. When you're out on the other side, it's like me and it's a totally
Yeah.
different way, but it's that getting there that I feel like so many people just they just I hate to say just people that don't understand
They
are
don't.
just yeah, they're just like, "Oh, just put it down, it'll be fine." And that's just not how easy. It's not that simple.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm back in New Jersey, and I'm reminded because in order for me to forgive myself, I had to leave here. There was too much here that had me look at myself in such a horrible way. And I didn't have the tools I have today. I mean, I'm going back 32 years when I don't think we had tools. I don't know what there were tools, but we didn't talk about this stuff. And so for you on the journey, you're entering a world where the rate of alcohol poisoning was unprecedented when you got sober, but it's still, and we still are we learning anything here? Can you help me out? Are we learning what are we learning?
I don't know. All I know is that I feel like the recent global pandemic made rates of abuse even worse. I mean, I pulled up a recent statistic from last year that said that alcohol abuse is a significant problem worldwide. It accounts for about 5% of deaths globally. And the United States alone, it accounts for 70% of substance use. And it's
That's a
estimated
big
that
number.
get this, it's estimated that 15 million Americans struggle with alcohol use disorder each year, but only 8% of them actually get individual treatment.
Yeah. And
Like,
you know that number is so low because
oh,
first of all, you have to report that you are that person.
yeah.
People that alcohol abuse is a almost a norm. And so for you to report it, you got to be like you and me work. Right? I
Yeah.
mean, you got to be like floating around the bottom.
Yeah.
Can you imagine though those numbers? I mean, we have to look at a way that's a little different to help people stay motivated. Isn't that what you're doing? I mean, you're really looking at this based on your experience, but you're also looking at look at the times we're living. This calls for something different, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of maybe the quote unquote traditional ways aren't really working for people so much. I mean, there's the rates of everything is just going up. I mean, opioids, I mean, this fentanyl, the stuff that's whatever the other new stuff is, it's killing people. It's
Yeah.
killing our children. It's killing our friends and our family. And people are just like, oh, okay, just put it down. And it's not how the chemistry works. Like it's
Yeah.
not how the brain works.
I had a woman call into the show I did the other night, and she called in her son had passed away uh from fentanyl laced drug that he didn't know. Had no idea was in there, and he was cured today and gone. But even with all this, it's hard to understand and explain the rise in all of this, isn't it? We're looking at adult people, men, women, and the fact that you die from alcohol. So I just want to be very clear on these statistics that you mentioned. First of all, these are like the known deaths of alcoholism. But like if your liver explodes or your heart explodes, those don't necessarily get counted. But what caused you to stay in the motivation lane? This is great information and you're changing the landscape. You are somebody that works with people to help them in a different way. But you learned something from your own motivation, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I, well, I chose to live. That's plain and simple. I chose life. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to continue to kill myself. And then I started to look for ways, the things that can support my recovery. And the door just opened wide up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't some of the ways that normally you think about people recovering from addiction. Um, I was exploring more holistic ways in order to support my recovery.
Yeah.
Once I separated enough from the substance and got over that, that actual physical addiction to it. Because that
Yeah.
you would need some medical treatment. There are a lot of times where there really is that medical stuff is very necessary. I don't want to poo-poo, rehabs or anything like that. They definitely serve a purpose.
You have to do it. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, what you and I are talking about is a different protocol. We are not circumventing the physical
Right.
detachment that happens because there's a physical thing that goes on. And I'm telling you, unless you've been through it, you have no idea what that is about. And you need to get professional help for that. And it varies. It varies from being hospitalized to maybe not something quite like that. um that's what you should get. But what you're talking about, look, I believe today if I didn't move from New Jersey to Seattle, I don't know if I would have made it this long. And the reason I say that is I moved to what I believe one of the most spiritual places on the planet, a place that I had never experienced anything like this. I think Seattle is considered one of the least religious places and one of the most spiritual. And I was very fortunate in moving there to be exposed to something I had never seen before. I'd never been part of. This is the place we don't talk about enough. You know, meditation, not medication, a lot of times. But isn't this what you're discovering along the way? That it really does call for a unique and new approach.
Yeah. Yeah. When I physically separated from the substance and I was able to actually start to explore some of this stuff, it's all the mental stuff. It's it's
Mhm.
it's it's where my brain goes. And just all the different programs I was in and the therapy and all that stuff, that was great. but there was still something that was missing. There were still these other tools that I needed to
Yeah.
have in order to continue to maintain this sobriety every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about that. It's one thing to really have that motivation to get sober. You know, how many millions of people have that motivation like the day after when you decided that you've wrecked everybody's car in the family, almost killed somebody, then you got that motivation. But wait a minute, wait a minute. How do you stay sober? Let's say you go through that day where you're like all in. Day 1, day 2, day 30. What do you do? How do you do it? Before we go to break, how do people find out more about you? How can they find out about what you do to help them?
The best way is to visit my website, www.thepeacewecrave. You can find all the information there and all the ways you can contact me. I'm all over social media as well, so you can find
All
me
right.
anywhere.
Awesome. Let's take a short break. When we come back, here's the deal. Great. You're sober. Day 10. Now what? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Oh, again, the peace we crave. The peace we crave. Anyone that has been anywhere along this journey, anywhere, it doesn't matter. Even from the point is, I really want to, even if that's you, even if you said it a million times, you crave the peace. What's the peace? The peace from the longing, the peace from the pain, the peace from whatever got you to that place to begin with. That's what Tanya D does. Now, listen, we talked about, let's just be clear. We talked about the motivation to get sober. But let's talk about now. All right, day 10, the motivation to stay sober. I mean, if there was ever an instance, right, when you think back about things you never noticed before, the bar that you walk by to go to work every day. Oh my gosh, a broken beer bottle on the, I mean, like, right?
Yes.
What have you learned and what can we say to people about that motivation? Because now we're talking friends, family. You know, I don't know about you, but I had to get rid of all my friends. I was like, I had to move clear across the country.
Yeah, and some people need to do that, right? It looks different for everybody. That's the other thing we were saying before. It's not linear. It's not like do this and you'll be better. It's not a straight line, right? It depends on the individual. And that transition process. Same for me. There's a lot of people I had to stop speaking to, places I had to stop going. I had to find a community of sober people that could help me.
Yeah.
Um, doing sober things. You know, I can't really be hanging out in bars. I really should be hanging out in street corners in a bad city. You know, it's not really the place I need to be right now when I'm trying to separate myself from that substance.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to ask you this. I tell this story a lot. I'm not going to tell it here, but I had a situation. I had all of the material things in the world. I was a very high functioning, like very high functioning, had it all until one day I was unrecognizable to myself. And then when I got sober, something changed. I saw things differently. I felt things differently. I couldn't stand the place I worked at anymore. Those are some of the things that will come up for people. You see the world differently, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, I totally did. And I also want to bring up too the part about the grieving process, right? I'm changing my entire life. I'm transitioning to this new life, and I don't like how it feels, right? And I need some of these tools, like you mentioned before, that I do that help me with that process about just changing everything, which easier said than done, right? You know, I know it's not an easy process. And it's just I just feel like it's not talked about enough.
It's not talked about. You know, part of this too is people don't realize that what happens when, especially if you were in past relationships where you were at your worst. Let's just get real. I mean, When are we at our worst? When we're in relationships. We don't even understand what we're doing in relationships. It would just kill everybody around us. But the hardest part is when you come and decide to get sober, and you now can see what you've done. That was one of the hardest things for me to get through. It was, how do I live with myself now? Now, I got outside help. I got there. I mean, I got anything I could get my hands on to help me, because the pain of what I saw about myself and the level of forgiveness that I had to have, isn't this part of what really crushes people sometimes?
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk about motivation. I mean, it's so hard to stay motivated when you're dealing with stuff like that, which is why it's so critical to have good things in place, like you just mentioned, and good people around you as well to really help you along with the process. The more tools we have, the better. I'm a huge proponent of therapy and anything that you need to do to 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 not pick up again, right? To live another day, because really, just for me to stay motivated, it was, I want to live today. I want to stop killing myself,
Yeah.
and I want to stop pissing off everybody around me.
Oh my God, that's like a whole show we can do.
Oh,
But
yeah.
part of this too is what you just said. I want to stay with what you just said. I don't even want to go to that conversation, because that we can do a whole show just on that. Because then you got to make the amends for that, and then you got to make the amends for when you were sober, because now you're just crazy. But I mean, part of this though is in the discovery process is, and I don't want to lose sight of this. The motivation is we see other people come out on the other side, people like you and people like me, right? uh and and my life, I would never have gone back to school. There was no way. I wouldn't have moved out to Seattle. There was no way I could even think about having the life I have now. It was just not going to happen. There's a point of diminishing returns with this. What was though the most motivation for you? What got you fired up?
I mean, it's really helping other people. I mean, that is really the biggest thing I'm passionate about. I want to help my people. I found my people. I love all you sober people, even you people trying to get sober. And I just want to help you. I love talking to you and being with you and helping. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because now what you've done is you've created a way to do that, to help people. You're out there, you're at the top coaching people. This is this is not a journey everybody says yes to, because this is not for the weak-hearted and the weak-minded. This journey. When you say yes to help other people, it elevates you, but it also elevates the energy of hope and spirit. Tell me for yourself, what is it that you look forward to now? Tell us about, speak to the people that are listening to you. What do you want to say to them in the few minutes we have left?
So I want to say that if you're struggling and you're trying to find hope and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, there is another way. There is a way to feel better. Just join us and we'll help you find peace and serenity in your addiction recovery. Don't have to feel this way anymore.
Yeah. You know, let's touch upon a few things here. You're going to do shows. We're going to talk about some of the other things that happens. I don't know about you, but I know my journey. What do we call it now? Dual diagnosis. I don't even understand the language anymore. The bottom line is that, for people like me, we had a few things emotionally and mentally to take care of. You, we have to continue, don't we, to educate people, to help folks understand this is not a singular dimensional journey for people. And people need your help. They need what you're doing to show them a way to find that peace, don't they?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. I know I'm here because of all the people that helped me. I know that. What is your greatest hope for you as you move forward with the show and you move forward with your coaching practice?
Just really getting the message out to people that there's a different way. There's other options, other tools that you can use.
Mm. Wow. Look, how do people get a hold of you? How do they schedule a session with you? Let's give them that information again. And thank you. Thank you for bringing this out here. Tell folks how to contact you, please.
Again, my website, the www.the Peace We Crave, and I'm all over social media. Just look up the Peace We Crave. You'll find me.
I love it. Thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to tell everybody out there, you're going to hear more and more from us. I don't know if you've noticed it on the network, but we are doing more shows on addiction, recovery, emotional recovery. We're doing more shows that are tapping into the problem that we talked about today. Those numbers are crazy.
Yeah.
We're not done. You're going to be back, right?
Yes, ma'am. Can't wait.
Right.
Looking forward to it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning us in, turning us on. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to The Peace We Crave, Find Your Freedom in Addiction Recovery with me, your host, Tanya D, on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Tune in the first Monday of each month at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, as we take you on a spiritual life recovery coach journey and share unique holistic approaches. Let's stop struggling in recovery and restore hope. Join us for each show as we design a pathway to peace and serenity in addiction recovery. You don't have to struggle in recovery anymore. Let me help you find the peace we crave. For more information, visit thepeacewecrave.com.